Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on another session of We Connects Academy Learning from Women Leaders Around the World series. My name is Pooja, and today I'm very happy to introduce Genevieve Deschantel. A little bit about Genevieve. For the past 16 years, she has worked in human resources and SMEs and large private and public companies. In 2013, she founded Alexi, which she also directs, and in 2010, she left Hydro-Quebec to start her own professional practice, which would focus mainly on the development of authentic and conscious leadership skills and abilities. Alexi is a cloud-based hosting and content delivering platform that helps experts, professionals, SMEs, and large international corporations deliver content, online consulting, trainings, and even virtual events. They also advise clients using business intelligence tools for content delivery in any language. I'll let Genevieve introduce herself further, but I would like to remind all the attendees that you are in listen-only mode. So if you have any questions, please write them down in the Q&A box on the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will make sure to read them out loud once the webinar is completed. We encourage you to ask as many questions as possible. I would also like to remind everyone that the recording of this webinar will be available after today's session and will be emailed to all of you, and it will also be available on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Genevieve, for being here with us today. Over to you.
Hi, thank you very much for this introduction. I'm so happy to be here with you today for this interactive and immersive session. We know that management skills in this time of transformation are so important. I mean, essential. And instead of putting you into a PowerPoint with me as an expert who will deliver the content, you will be the hero of that session today. So I will put you into that immersive and interactive learning that we've built before COVID, but it's so, I will say, essential that you will be able to see and evaluate yourself and try to figure it out what can be your next step in your development plan as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as also, I will say, a mom, because management skills also are also so good at home. Okay, so I will use the chat also during the session to have that contact with you. You will have to answer me some questions, and I hope you will appreciate that way of being in a virtual mode, but in a different mode than I will say, the classic webinar that we can have on a day-to-day basis. If you have any question, as we just mentioned to you before, feel free to put them also in the question label that is on the control panel, or directly in the chat. I will read you and I will be able to answer you. Thank you very much again for being here, and I will say let's start. Let's start with the question that I have for you. I will really appreciate if you can answer me in the chat. I will ask you, what is your level of energy right now? It's 9:04 Eastern time. I will say, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your level of energy? I will write mine, and I will encourage you to write yours. I don't see a lot of answer in the chat. Is it because I don't look at the right place? Just can you help me if you see some answer in the chat, or if I'm alone that don't see the answer of our participant?
Yes, of course. One person, Arti Bindras, she says 10, which is fantastic. Two people say 6. One person says 8. One person says 7.
Okay,
I
thank you.
myself am a full 10.
Yeah, you have my dog that want to say that is on 9 on 10 right now. So you see him maybe on the camera. So for today, so I will not see your chat directly. So I will, of course, work with Pooja, who will help me during this session to have access to your answer. So let's go right now to this immersive and interactive training. Okay. So management skills. At the era of the world of work 4.0, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, especially with COVID, where the workforce shortage is prevalent, how developing your management skills as an individual and as a management team to be able to face challenges of growth and decline, to face digital, organizational, and cultural transformation, all of which are happening in a world where technologies are accelerating at an exponential speed. Alors, of course, I will start the training. You will see at your left some indicators. You will notice how to deal with those while you will listen to that simulation. Each time you will have to take a decision, I will be there to, of course, help you and guide you towards this webinar. So let's go.
Welcome to this interactive movie about management skills, in which you will help a transforming company mobilize its work teams. You are the president and CEO of Le Média, a well-established distributor of cultural products. Your company has 200 employees, 70% of whom work in production and belong to a union. The remaining 30% include your management and customer service teams who are not unionized. Many people feel that your greatest strength lies in how committed your employees are. You believe this commitment comes from how closely aligned with its values of authenticity your organization is. Your teams work in a positive atmosphere, which contributes to operational efficiency. Until one day, one of your competitors' e-commerce website, Danube, seizes significant market share in your industry. This marks the beginning of a difficult period, with your revenue dropping to the point where restructuring seems inevitable. This is where your challenge begins. You must take the reins of Le Média and steer it through this time of transformation. This will require you to make major decisions, which will either maintain your performance indicators stable or send them plummeting. During the simulation, you will get a real-time view of the impact of your decisions on your performance indicators, and consequently on your chances of keeping your teams mobilized. Are you ready?
So do you think everybody's ready, Pooja?
Yes, everyone's ready.
Cool. So let's begin.
Your latest financial statements show that due to Danube's new competition, your revenues are down 15% and your profits have melted. If this trend continues, you will record your first losses in 10 years next month. You meet with your executive committee to deal with this situation. They all believe there's no immediate need for drastic action. Your sales team must first revise its strategies to protect your market share, and your operations management team needs to determine which expenses to reduce to compensate for the losses. Despite these measures, you already know that layoffs are a possibility if the Danube push continues. After the meeting, your human resources director asks whether you plan to break this news at tomorrow's monthly address to employees. What do you answer?
So I will ask you to read those three statements, and in the chat, if the first one, the second one, or the third one that you will choose. Tell me in the chat, and Pooja will tell me the majority of our group will say 1, 2, or 3, and the story will go from that place. We will not go at the same place if we choose 1, 2, or the first, the second, or the third statement. So I'll let you read and give your answer in the chat.
So I am seeing answers for one person said number 1, a few people say number 2, one person says number 3.
So the majority, as of now, say 2.
Yes.
Perfect. So let's go with the second one.
The next day, during your presentation, employees tense up when they learn about your revenue losses and the need for an action plan. One of them asks you whether jobs will be cut to correct the situation. You answer reassuringly. You say that all solutions are on the table, but that you don't want to reach that point. In fact, you'll do everything in your power to avoid layoffs. The meeting ends peacefully. Nevertheless, the following week, your human resources director notices that false rumors are going around the company. Many people are claiming that layoffs are already planned, which generates insecurity that's hindering operations. What do you do?
Again, it's the same thing. You saw that your indicators and your skills are moving following your decision. So I will ask you to read the three statements, and decide in the chat if you choose the first, the second, or the third one.
The majority looks like option number 2.
Oh, again, number 2. So let's go. Thank you.
The following week, your action plan takes shape. You and your executive committee decide to increase the marketing budget by 12% to boost sales. To balance this out, you will reduce expenses to keep the company afloat. The next step is to work with the union to plan the negative growth. After a week of joint analysis, you come to the following conclusion. Payroll must be reduced by 10% as soon as possible. You ask your managers to list the positions that need cutting for this goal to be achieved in their department. 2 days later, your operations manager knocks on your door. He says he can't carry out your request because it is impossible to cut payroll by 10% in his sector. Operations could be paralyzed. What do you do?
Again, same thing. You have, of course, 3 statements, and you have to choose the first, the second, or the third. Put it in the chat, and we will go with the majority.
Once again, the majority says option 2.
Oh, it go. We'll
The
go.
operations manager says he can cut 5% of his payroll at the most. So you meet with your executive committee to work out how to compensate for the remaining 5%. Currently, only one department is flush, sales, but making cuts to it would be a bad idea, since your survival depends on your ability to maintain sales despite Danube's competition. After some discussion, the committee comes to the conclusion that the operations manager has to meet the 10% cuts target. Back in your office, he vents his frustration. He reminds you that he was hired to optimize production. He was never told he'd have to lay people off. What's more, some of his friends work in his department, and one of the positions likely to be cut is currently staffed by his brother-in-law, who has 2 young children. What do you do?
Again, first, second, or third statement, and look at your key performance indicators and your skills. At the left. Where goes the majority?
The majority says number 3.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
Your operations manager is convinced by your arguments, and the following week, all your managers are done with their preparations. You have in hand the complete list of positions to be eliminated. You call your human resources director to discuss the next steps. She encourages you to meet with the union to ensure that the layoffs are carried out in compliance with the collective agreement. She then asks how you plan to break the news to employees. What do you answer?
Again, this is the first, the second, or the third statement.
I am seeing people respond a lot with the first option.
The first one will go there.
Having learned of your plans to have the managers announce the layoffs, your operations manager storms into your office once again. You've never seen him so angry. He accuses you of not knowing what you're doing. Laying people off without any prior announcement is a terrible idea. The work teams are sure to panic when their managers terminate dozens of their colleagues. What do you do?
So you are now in the crunch part of the story. I will ask you to choose between the first, the second, or the third statement.
The majority seems to be option 2.
Perfect.
The day of the layoffs finally arrives. Unfortunately, your operations manager's predictions come true. The teams are seized by fear as your managers lay off employee after employee. People want an explanation. Since their managers have no answers for them, they turn to the union. The situation might get out of hand if you don't intervene. You call an emergency all-hands meeting to clarify the situation. You say you are currently laying off workers, a regrettable decision, but one on which the company's survival depends. Disapproving grumbles rise from the audience. A woman gets up, spits on the floor, and starts to insult you. She accuses you of having no heart and reminds you that many of her colleagues have given the company 10 years of their lives. What do you do?
Oh, ho. Between 1, 2, or 3, what you will choose?
I am seeing option 1 as the majority.
Perfect.
The employee who heckled you sits back down. Your presentation continues in front of an increasingly agitated audience. You are asked 1,000 questions, and you answer that the company is generating losses and will not be able to survive unless it pares back its payroll. At the end of your speech, you feel the employees calm down a bit. The atmosphere for the rest of the day is still heavy. It's a difficult moment for everyone. When you come into the office the next day, you walk in on some employees who don't realize you're there, criticizing your management in the break room. The most senior of them loudly proclaims that your obsession with profit is unhealthy, and that if you just reined in your lust for money a bit, you could have saved his friends' jobs. What do you do?
Oh, what do you do between the first, the second, or the third statement?
I am seeing option 3 as the majority.
Perfect.
When the employees come into your office that afternoon, the confrontation you were expecting does not happen. They listen as you explain your decisions without saying a word, looking embarrassed that they were caught, and then go back to work. The next day, you notice that those employees have a more positive attitude. However, near the end of the day, you catch one of them stretching out his paid coffee break beyond what's reasonable. What do you do?
Between the first, the second, or the third one, again, look at your skills and your key performance indicator while you choose.
I am seeing option 3 as the majority.
Perfect. We'll go there.
A few weeks later, you meet with your executive committee to share some good news. Your action plan seems to have paid off. The company's revenues did not decline in the last quarter. They even went up by 0.5%. And the 10% cut in payroll turned out to be enough to keep the business afloat. As a result, no additional layoffs will be required if the trend continues. Your human resources director asks whether you plan to announce this to employees. After all, it may be too early to celebrate. What do you answer?
And again, between the first, the second, or the third statement.
I am seeing number 3 as an option.
Perfect.
It seems that No Media's transformation has allowed it to survive Danube's push. Do you think that your decisions kept employees engaged as you weathered the storm? In the coming months, will there be a drop in motivation leading to a new crisis at No Media? Or conversely, will your team's mobilization translate into high operational efficiency and help you return to your previous profitability?
Thank you very much. We'll go to the results.
Welcome to this interactive movie about management skills, in which you will help a transforming company mobilize its work teams.
Okay, so we'll see the results. I just have, anyway, we have it there. Just think I have a little internet problem, but whoops, yeah, we have it here. So congratulations, we start at the value of 70 for the indicator that align with organizational values. So you stay right on track. You were focused. So you increase that indicator to 75. Of course, it was not, a perfect time to increase the employee commitment, but we can say that maybe more and those skills that are more aligned with what we call influence leadership or sales leadership will have a better impact, because now you turn out to 30 and it started at 70. And on the operational efficiency, it's linked into the literature. When your employee commitment is low, I will say very often the operational efficiency is also low. So of course, that decrease in the employee commitment had an impact on the operational efficiency. We will look at the skills right now. Congratulations on determination and strength of character, of course, because you stayed very focused as a group. On adaptability, you knew how to adapt yourself to this situation. Where you were more result oriented, so we can see that emotional intelligence and empathy and ability to analyze and anticipate were a bit low, but communication and leadership, you had the courage to dare, and we saw that in your answer. So this give us, I will say, put the table to look at the 7 principles of how to influence instead of convincing people. And in those times of transformation, the ability to influence will give you better results than the ability to convince. So I want to share with you those 7, I will say, steps or 7 key to increase your level of influence leadership. The first one is the ability to listen, to understand, instead of the ability to listen, to answer. Very, very often, before the person had finished her or his idea, we are talking, we are interrupting the conversation to put our way of saying things while the person was talking to us and give us the information that will help us to understand how she sees the world. So this ability is a very hard one, but it's the main one. The ability to listen, to understand, instead of the ability to listen, to answer. I will ask you a little question in the chat again. I will ask you to guess, according to the literature, after how many seconds we usually interrupt the person in front of us. It counts on a second. And I will ask Puji to give me the main answer that that you will put into the chat with that exercise of trying to guess after how many seconds we usually interrupt.
A lot of people are saying 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 full minute, 3 seconds, 5
You
seconds.
have quite few answers to share.
Yes, majority seems to say 5 seconds. I would also say 5 seconds.
Puji, can you help me with the answer that you've got?
Yes, of course, a majority says 5 seconds.
Are you still there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I didn't have the chance to. Okay, so the majority says around 5 seconds. Yeah, you're near. The literature said to us 7 seconds. So think about it. You have someone that asks you, for example, how was your weekend? This is not a strategic conversation. This is just, how was your weekend? And the time that the person start to talk to you about, I don't know where she goes, maybe she went to the grocery store and make some food with her family, and now we interrupt around 7 seconds, and we start to just tell the person our weekend. Wow, we ask her, how was your weekend? And after 7 seconds or so, we are just telling her how was our weekend. And this is not a strategic conversation. So imagine when you're in front of your bank manager, when you're in front of your partners, when you're in front of your clients, and there's a bit of stress level. How, if you're not practicing yourself to listen to understand instead of listen to answer, how you will react. And this has a huge impact on the relation, on what we call the frontal cortex, while you have your decision center. You have to take care of that. The second key is to ask more questions than give advice and make affirmations. So, question to understand more the perspective of the other person. You want to know how she sees the world, because when you know that, you will know how to sell, how to influence her instead of trying to convince her. The third one, if you ask good question, you might have a silence. Because if you ask me a good question right now that I didn't thought about it, I will just try to, oh my God, this is a good question. Let me think about it. Or if I'm more an introvert person, I will just let that question come into me, and there will be a silence. You have to sustain that silence without talking. And I know sometimes it's hard. My tip is to take a sip of water. While I ask that question, I take a sip of water so I know that I won't talk. So the fourth key, it's how to develop your empathy. We talk about empathy in the simulation. We noticed that as a group, we didn't score too much in that empathy. Empathy means having the ability to put yourself in the shoes of the other person, instead of trying to let the other person understand your point of view. It's the opposite. And we have to work on that, especially as a manager, especially in those times of transformation. The fifth one, I will talk about awareness. I will talk about presence. I will talk about the present moment. You know, sometimes we are in a meeting, especially online, and we do other things. We go on our email or notification on Facebook or whatsoever. We go there. Or we will take a lot of notes because we don't want to miss anything. But while we take notes, we are a bit behind the present moment. So think about it. Think about it when you have some important meeting. It's maybe not the time to take notes. You will say, Jen, how I will remind, all the things that we will discuss. Manage the meeting to be able 10 or 5 minutes before the end, that it will be the time to take notes and the time to share the to-do list or the next steps. You don't have to take notes So think about it, and maybe it will change a little bit, but that's so important thing to sell your idea, sell your product, sell your change to your employee, sell your services. Okay. The sixth one, the key will be to try to figure out the real problem. And if you manage correctly the first key, the second key, the third key, the fourth key, and the fifth key, you will have better chance to find the real problem. Instead of working on those symptoms, you will find the sources of what your product, your service, your idea can solve for the other person. And the seventh one, it's that influence doesn't work all the time. I will say that you have to increase your level of humility and vulnerability, and what I call the real self-esteem and self-confidence, to be able to say that was not the right strategy, that was not the right timing. Maybe I try to convince instead of influence. Maybe the person, I'm not the right person to influence that people in front of me. Maybe some other person can be better than I. So what's the difference between the real self-confidence and the confidence that is based on your expertise? The confidence based on your expertise means that because you're a leader, and people will come to you to get answers. If you develop your self-confidence, you will act more as a leader coach that is mission. It's to help other to learn. So this is a change of mindset that is especially good while you manage online, or with the COVID, or just because you have virtual teams. And the larger your teams are, the better leader coach you must be, because you will not be able to have that 1-800 number with your name in, on your face to answer all of their questions, because you have the expertise. So those key will help you to increase your management skills in those time of transformation. We have to understand also that collectively, because of COVID, we are in a huge change management curve. Around last March, we were in the first step of that curve, that we were shocked. Oh my God, what's happened? After that, during the spring and the beginning of summer, we start to say, being in the deny mode, while we say it will be temporary, that COVID, everything will be back to normal in few months or few weeks. But unfortunately, the summer came, and at the end of summer, we start to just go deeper in that COVID crisis, and the impact on all the on streets. We are in that curve, while we are angry, while we are sad, while we are depressed because we live a grief for because we miss our old normal. So the next step are better. It's the acceptance, it's the growth, and now go up. For that, as entrepreneur, we has as person to take care of ourselves, to take care of others. And to take care of ourselves means take times to step back, take time to listen what's going on in ourselves, to improve our intelligence and our emotional intelligence, to develop what I call our trust indicator, because we have to trust ourselves to trust others. I talked a lot. You had that simulation. It's very important for me to open the lines and answer the question that you may have, and to be sure that we will finish right on time, because I know that a lot of people will have another meeting right after this one. So if there's any question, feel free to ask them in the chat, and or in the question where you can put your question, and I'm pretty sure that I will have some help to get your question and be able to answer them.
Hi, Genevieve. Thank you so much for that presentation. The simulation was very interesting. I found it extremely enlightening, and I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions about, the content of the simulation as well.
Feel free to ask any question that you may have. No, I cannot hear you. I will try to put the AirPods. Maybe it will help, but now I don't hear you.
Hello?
Oh, now I hear you. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I was just thanking you for your presentation. I found your simulation to be extremely um, interesting and enlightening, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions. So I just want to remind everyone, you are all muted, so the way to ask questions would be through the chat. And then I will ask Genevieve the questions and then she'll answer. We had a question about, I cannot unmute myself.
Do you have any question?
Yes, one person asks, are there any particular tools for managing corporate stress? Genevieve?
If you talk to me, I don't hear you. Are there any particular tools for managing corporate stress? Yes. My main tool, because I try to manage this as more as possible, it's to breathe in and breathe out. You will find it very, simple. You will say, can you give me some more complex tool? But it's a free one. We need to breathe, and it's the better one. You know why? Because while we breathe consciously, we just go back to the present moment. And the stress from our anticipation of the future. So while we take a deep breath in and deep breath out, we just come back to that present moment. One teacher one day told me to do at least 1 or 2 conscious breathing between every meeting. And it helped me so much that I give you that tip today. Another question. I feel that as a leader, we should really communicate and absolutely clear and truthful with our team, right? I've seen many answer kind of delegating on managers. Should it be a closer approach to address the full team right from the head leader role? I like that question because it was also part of the simulation. We have to work as with our management team, because if it's only if it's only us who is the image, who have that meaning, that vision, that mission, we have a risk. First, we are we are human, of course, but second, we will not act to put our management team responsible. We have to be very clear with our management team and let them communicate. And we have to also act as we want them to act. So if I act very truthfully, clear, transparency, authenticity, and I help them to develop their management skills, they will be good to communicate that message. But we have to let go our control freak. And this is very often something that will stop the growth of our management team. I hope this answer your question. Can we do the simulation on our own as well? As I'm sure on one of the other questions I would have answered something differently. You have my email here, okay? jdeshotel@iluxy.com. Just write me an email and it will be my pleasure to give you an access to do it again. Do we have other questions? I like your question. Thank you very much for those. Can you talk more about your own personal experience in managing people during COVID? Of course. Thank you very much for asking. Actually, we have 10 people that work remotely, of course, but I manage I will say virtually since the past 4 years. I will explain why. Because I'm also an expert who do some keynote speeches, I will say around the world, okay, especially in Canada, but around the world also. So I've put 4 managing, I would say 4 kind of ritual to manage people virtually. The first one is the one-on-one meeting every week, okay, with the people, with my management team, every, one-to-one. The second is what we call the stand-up meeting. Every morning from 8:45 to 9, everyone is online. And if you have a meeting and you cannot be there, we're sorry, but we do the meeting, even if you're not there. And sometimes it's me. This morning, I was not there. I was here online, okay, to be sure that everything will be fine. So, but they've done the stand-up meeting. Stand-up meetings in project management mean having that meeting and being, stand up, okay? But virtually, of course, means that everyone is online at the same moment. And we will ask 2 questions. We ask 2 questions to our team, the entire team. What is your priority for today? And what are you grateful for in the last 24 hours? So you have that result-oriented and that personal and human question every morning, and it's the same question every morning since the past 4 years. The third one will be the team meeting, and we will take care of being sure that everyone is on the meeting will have to contribute. So we will talk more about what is horizontal subject or that is transversal, that everyone will be part of it. So we take care of that. And the fourth one is the skip level meeting. So at least 4 times per year, as a manager who lead manager who has people, I will have meeting, phone calls, Zoom, whatsoever, okay, with everyone to, having that meeting that will put in a perspective the vision, the mission, and also to ask, how are you? This is the 4th thing that I do, especially during COVID. The simulation was about management team. I am a manager of a small event agency, 7 employees, so most of the decisions are on my plate only, which makes it hard as I cannot discuss it in a leadership team. Yes, I understand. Any advice here? As you can guess, during COVID, it's not easy to run an event agency during COVID times, of course, and I completely understand. I will say that I will encourage you to have what we call, it's not a board, but it's I would say, I'm looking for the word in English, but a streaming committee that you will be able to be challenged by people that can mentor you. You can also be part of what we call co-development entrepreneur. So you can share with the people that are in your business or not, depending on which kind of group you choose. And I know there's also a lot of those groups that are for women entrepreneurs, so you can have that specific sense of what it is to be a woman entrepreneur, especially during COVID. Yes, it's important to be surrounded by people and be surrounded by people that not really think the same as you think, to let you understand, or open your awareness to other perspective. Say yes. Other question. I hope that I answered the one that I've got. How can we introduce and encourage various leadership style in a corporate setting? By being you. First, if you're authentic, you have your own leadership style. You have your own authenticity. So by being you, you will encourage everyone to be in their own leadership style. If you look for a specific leadership style and you try to adapt yourself to that leadership style, everyone will understand that they have to follow that leadership style. So as Gandhi said, while before me and while better than me, be the change that you want to see. Other question? Comments? Feel free to do so. Can you discuss more on how you have alleviating employee concern during COVID? I will try to be sure that I understand the question. Actually, I try to be, I would say, informal in that formal, okay? Because of course we are at the office, we are result oriented. We struggle a bit as an entrepreneur, but we have also to think how we can develop our employee, how we can maintain the engagement. And on my side, I decided to share what's going on in the business. I decided to share the numbers. I decided to share the ratio. I decided to share where I want to go and how I need them to be near me and my partners. I hope that answered the question. I think we are about to finish. I know that a lot of people have meeting, one after the other. I want to be sure that I will thank you very much for being there this morning. I want to let you know that you can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I write a lot, but I know it's in French. Maybe it will be difficult. I thank you very much for understand that my mother tongue is French also, and I decided to do that webinar in English to be a bit out of my comfort zone, because it's important as a leader to also put a feet out of your comfort zone quite often. So I thank you again, and I wish you a very pleasant day, and take care of yourself to take care of others.
Thank you so much for everyone who joined in today's session. I also want to just clarify that this webinar will be emailed to every attendee here, and it will also be uploaded onto our YouTube channel within the next 2 weeks. So don't worry, all this content will be available. I hope that, let me ask Genevieve, just to ask her to put her contact information. Again,
Yes.
I encourage you to take advantage of this information and really contact her if you have any questions, or if you want to participate in her simulation. Thank you so much again, and have a great day.